DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo, J Gilbo 11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J Clay. Taking a look at a 5 game slate, which does feature cores, but also, I mean, you got a game out in Texas. You got the Cubs on this slate. You got the Dodgers in a good spot. You do have some solid offense to kind of really target and work around tonight.
Yeah, it's gonna be I'd say easy to hedge tonight in tournaments, but at the same time, you could have potentially lose a lot of money if you're hedging tonight because there's a lot of different combinations that I could see winning here.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, obviously the Twins Texas game, I mean, big time over
Yeah,
under there. That could be something,
right.
to kind of pivot off cores with or kind of work in. And also the Dodgers, I mean, projected for nearly 5 runs. It could be an interesting one. And I definitely could see a repeat performance of their offense from last night.
Like if you're trying to go with a lot of lineups tonight, I don't think you should do like 10. You know what I mean? I think you should do like 20 because as you mentioned, there's like 4 games. Well, there's like 2 games, the Twins, Rangers, and then there's Rockies, Phillies, obviously. Then you got the Cubs. It's like that's 5 teams that are like decent stacking options. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's numerous ways you can go, and I mean, think jumping into Cubs Pirates here. I mean, the Cubs, obviously, I mean, friendly offense, and going up against Chad Cool, who hasn't really boasted anything that keeps you away from the Cubs. I mean, so far, pretty small sample size, 3.32 WOA to lefties. Definitely see some of these guys in play, and I do think Rizzo could pay off at 4.6. That's not a bad price tag for him. Obviously, we know the Bryant upside. You're paying premium for Bryant, and that's obviously a swerve off of Arenado. So, that's
Yeah.
kind of how you're looking with these Cubs, and it's how it usually is when you're facing the Cubs on a core slate.
And yeah, so those are definitely the important guys. I like a Zobrist as well, 4,200. I mean, on this type of slate, it doesn't really matter when you get into that 4.2 to like 3.5 range. It's all pretty much the same. But in terms of, I don't know what to do with Jason Hayward. At this point, he's been bad, but he's a pretty decent value tonight against the righty. Like obviously, do we just avoid him? Or are you kind of going at him on a 5 gamer?
I mean, he's going to be a guy if I need to make something fit and he kind of pans out, yeah, I'm going to toss him it. Because I mean, the
Yeah.
track record's there. Something really hasn't been right with him this year. He's had a couple of nice games. I mean, look, he had a triple last night. Um, I don't mind him out of the 6th spot at that price. Like I really don't, and I don't mind the matchup. And I just think if I need to fit in a cheaper outfielder, he's kind of a guy I don't mind doing it with.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that price and he's done well against righties historically. Obviously, he's just struggled this year. So, I think I'm firing away with him in tournaments tonight.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. And for me, Javier Baez, I mean, Addison Russell, those are 2 guys that cheaper
Yeah.
below 4K. I don't mind them either. I think they're more so in play for tournaments. I'm not really rolling with them in cash because I think those are 2 spots that if I need to get cores in, I'm going to probably punt at.
Hmm.
So.
Yeah, I agree. And again, a full stack isn't out of the question for the Cubs. I think that's a contrarian way to go on DK, especially if you go Lester and Brandon McCarthy or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, on the Pirate side, I think on a 5 game slate, if you're looking to be contrarian, is to work some of these Pirates into Rockies lineups. It's a different
Ooh.
way. I mean, you're not hedging off Colorado, but you are making some moves with the Pirates. And Lester, I mean, this is the 4th time that the Pirates have seen him this year. So it's obviously something.
Right.
You do have a Mercer at 3.2, a David Freese. 1 through 5 there have all 1 through 6 really have all hit lefties fairly well, either this season or at some point in their career, and they're all super cheap. It could be something to put in a McCutchen at 2.9 with a Cargo and Blackman outfield. I mean, it just could be something that does pay off.
Yeah, I could see that. With price considered, they obviously gave you a pretty reasonable amount to work with there. So those are workable pieces for sure. And obviously McCutchen at 2.9, even with his struggles this year. Decent deep tournament play.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So obviously, that's all you're looking at the Pirates for is just to make a little bit of swerves off of those popular
Yeah.
plays, not really looking to load up on them.
Right.
Nationals and Mets here, and obviously, I mean, not necessarily looking at Mets against Max Scherzer. Um,
No.
the Nationals could be somewhat contrarian tonight, and I do think the Murphy Harper prices are a little bit insane, but obviously, I mean, it's hard to say they're not in play, but I mean, they always are. Um,
I mean, it's a way to go that is going to be lower owned. I can't see them being over 20% at those prices, which obviously you would rather not even be 15% at those prices, but 5 gamer, it's a decent way to swerve there. So I mean, you're paying 11K, but at the same time you're getting against a pretty inexperienced pitcher, two solid lefties against a weaker righty. So I mean, definitely a way to go. I don't know about a full stack, but if you want to throw those two in, I'm definitely for it.
Yeah, I definitely am too. And I mean, some of these prices are a little bit expensive for me. I was hoping the secondary pieces like a Clint Robinson. I mean, Clint Robinson's not in a
Mm.
bad spot. I don't mind him as a GPP play at 3-1. I was hoping guys like Rendon and Espinosa would be a little bit cheaper, but they're not. Righties have hit lefty or have hit Ray a little bit better this season. I mean, small sample size from this year, but 415 Woba, nearly a 40% hard ball to lefties. So I do think the Nationals, I mean, it's a relatively average run total. Could be pieces to kind of get exposure to, but it's not the first team that I'm jumping all over, but I think they should be mentioned.
Yeah, Rendon. It's always hard to pay 4,500 for the 7 hitter. It always is painful to throw that in. So yeah, I agree. You're really just kind of avoiding that the value on the national side there.
Padres and Dodgers. This one, I love the Dodgers offense. And some of these guys come in at really nice price tags yet again. I mean, Chase Utley's under 4K. Really love Justin Turner at that price. I mean, Turner's a
Yeah.
guy who, if I am swerving off Arenado, it's going to be for Turner. Just because one, I can't get away from that price tag. I mean, it's really solid. And I don't even mind some of these back end guys here. I mean, Perdomo's just been bad against both sides of the plate. I mean, 405 to lefties, righties 400 Woba so far this season. So give me the Dodgers. I think another big outing here is pretty likely, and I don't mind Diasio Puig at 3.6 or digging deep for Howie Kendrick. I mean, 3.2 is a really a decent price tag if you're looking to pay down second base.
Yeah, I was looking at Howie Kendrick, but I think him and Trace Thompson are two guys with potential home run power tonight, especially at their prices. I really like that. As you mentioned, you got to like the front of that lineup as well, projected for almost 5 runs. So yeah, fire away with this one. I think the common theme has been just either go with the top three or dive down and kind of avoid that Adrian Gonzalez middle ground. No?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I mean, Seager is obviously the most expensive option at 4.8 there, but I mean, deservingly so. He's been their best hitter by far. I mean, in comparison to those other names, so definitely deserving.
Yeah.
Seager, I mean, obviously a price that's high, not economical to maybe your strategy for tonight, but obviously definitely still in play because we know his upside.
Right.
And as far as the Padres side, I mean, I know McCarthy's kind of working his way back, but I can't really see myself using these guys at their prices. I mean, obviously, a Kemp is intriguing at 3.2, but for me, there's other options I kind of rather roll with.
Yeah. This can be a infomercial slightly for Will Myers is a monster. And he's putting together a really good year. Probably avoiding him tonight, but yeah, I mean, is he like matchup proof almost right now? Barring like facing aces, I mean, he seems to pretty much come through more often
Yeah,
than not.
yeah. I mean, I think look, I find myself using a lot of McCarthy tonight, so it's tough for me to
Yeah.
pick mine. But yeah, I mean, arguably, if there's one hitter I'm definitely worried about for McCarthy, it's Will Myers at this point. And you just look at this offense. I mean, they run pretty freely, especially Melvin Upton and Will Myers on the base paths. And we saw that last night. Both had a stolen base, and
Yeah.
Myers could have had two, but was thrown out in the second one. So the Padres offense, I mean, they do put the wheels in motion. They're just kind of that
Mhm.
free flowing, and 1 through 5, 1 through 6 at times can be pretty solid. So I'm using McCarthy. I'm trusting Vegas on this one.
Yeah.
I'm staying away, but definitely, I think these Padres they're back in play as far as hitters go.
It's something to think about in terms of exposure, at least, you know?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Core's next one here, you got Gerard Eichhoff versus Tyler Anderson. I mentioned Anderson as being a relatively deep GPP play, and obviously, I mean, you can take some of these guys against him, some of these right-handed bats because they are cheap. You look at a Tommy Joseph, could be in play. Whoever's catching could be Rupp, could be Ruiz. I don't mind those guys. Tyler Goodell, 3.5. So you do have some relatively value outfielders here for the Phillies. But obviously, I
Mhm.
think Coors is or Colorado's where we're looking majorly for what we want.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. And hey, pretty reasonable prices. Considering where they have been and for a Coors slate. So, I mean, you're not even paying 20K for the top four in that lineup. So I'm pretty in on that stack. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be. I think we're going to see Blackman and Cargo heading into 30% range in tournaments, maybe even higher. So that's kind of a bummer. Story's finally priced up. Overall, it is what it is. I think we're targeting the Rockies, but at the same time, you're aware it's not necessarily going to be a big advantage for you.
No, definitely not. And Blackman's price, I mean, 4.5 is
Yeah.
really intriguing me. It just comes, it just looks. That's the first one that kind of jumps out at me. I'm not really big on LeMahieu at 4.4. I think if I'm taking four hitters, it's going to be Story, Gonzalez, Arenado, and Blackman.
Yeah.
Um, I think those are my top guys, and even the secondary pieces, I'm not that big of a fan of the 6, 7, 8 guys. So it's the usual suspects here. I really like the two outfielders the most. I think those are guys are going to be the priority for me.
I agree. I think that's cash. If you are going to go that direction, I mean, I'm at least going to attempt to fire and Scherzer those two and then try to go from there. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where building lineups is you're probably going to be forced to take maybe a piece or two that you just feel about. I mean, that was
Meh.
kind of like how it was last
Yeah.
time. I mean, paying up for pitching, you end up with the James McCann, or you kind of
Right.
lower with some guys. But hey, you punt catcher, you can punt maybe a middle infield spot, and you kind of work in some of those bats.
Yep.
Last game of the night here, Twins, Texas, and I like this game quite a bit. And there's kind of, there's high price, there's value, there's kind of stuff that you want here. And looking at the Twins side first, I like those prices of, Max Kepler. I really don't mind that. Robbie Grossman, both hitting from the left side. And we look at Loesch last year, 365 WOBA to lefties, a 1.67 home runs per nine. There was a reason why he's been down in the minors, and for me, I think you can look at the Twins bats 1 through 6 here.
Uh, what did we say about him in the pitcher pod that he's the annoying friend? He's the
Yeah,
annoying friend that we haven't seen for a while, and then you realize pretty quickly why you probably didn't like him, and he was the annoying friend. So yeah, I think we're firing away with this Twins lineup. They could be a nice. I mean, they are going to be decently owned, but I don't think they're going to be one of the higher owned groupings tonight. So I think you can fire away with Sano and Dozier and even a Kepler Grossman. I'm definitely in on that.
yeah, definitely. And I do think those higher priced guys, as you mentioned, aren't going to carry that higher ownership, like in Nunez, Sano, Dozier, because they're the same
Hmm.
price as cores, or even more so as cores. So
Right.
they're definitely have lower ownership. That's going to be a swerve to make. And I don't hate that. So just looking at that ballpark and that run total with these two pitchers, I think this game is the swerve to make. And I do think people are going to think pretty similarly, just because this Vegas total is pretty up there. This ballpark's pretty great for power and runs. So it's just going to be a matter of mixing and matching for my sake tonight.
And hey, I don't remember the last time we said this guy's name, but Joe Mauer in his last three starts, 7 hits. Could it be a vintage Joe Mauer night?
It could be, 3.9, and you got to look. And Coors doesn't offer really a first baseman, Mark Reynolds, Tommy Joseph, if you want to go that route.
Hmm.
Joe Mauer's under 4K, hitting second. I mean, a good spot. Never a guy with tremendous power, but
No.
you know what? He can get on base, a good on base guy. If he can put together maybe an extra base hit or two, maybe a couple runs, couple ribbies, you know, he can chip away and do a lot of fancy production.
Yeah, I mean, I we haven't said his name for at least a month.
Yeah, and maybe even me for longer. Like I think we
Yeah.
said it like a while back, and I was just like, I just was like, okay, yeah, sure. Like I didn't even say his name back. I was just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I was like, all
So
right.
I mean, he's at least in play tonight, but yeah, definitely looking at the higher end options in terms of stacking.
Yeah, definitely. And on this Texas side of things, I mean, you got Chu, Desmond, Odor. I mean, pretty expensive. The first three hitters there. I don't mind 4.56, all below 4K. Even Mazzara at 3.6. Mazzara's kind of come back down to earth a little bit. But you look against
Yeah.
Nolasco. I mean, Nolasco 324 with the lefties. Um, and, you know, righties have hit him relatively well. 349, 1.51 home runs per nine. So,
Right.
you know, I don't mind those
It's
guys 1 through 5, 1 through
it's
6.
both sides of the plate with Nolasco. So, again, I think you can do a 1 through 3 here and be pretty confident. Maybe throw Beltray in there for some value if you are going that direction. And as I said, I mean, there's five or six lineups with solid directions to go in. I prefer the Twins slightly here, but at the same time, I definitely see the upside.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely in agreement. I think price considered. I kind of like the Twins maybe a little bit more here. Guys like Kepler, Grossman, Mauer. Um, you know, I was hoping Shu would be a little bit cheaper, but the way he's been playing of late, the matchup, I can understand why.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, I mean, you know, we're not going to get this game cheap because there's 11 run total with two bad pitchers, but it would have been nice.
It would have been nice.
So
Exactly. Again, when they're less than Coors, that's kind of a bummer.
yeah, yeah.
Or
So
more than Coors, excuse me.
yeah, we know what you meant.
Yeah, I figured you guys knew what I meant. Yeah.
That's going to wrap things up here with the DraftKings Daily Trot. Be sure to check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all our great tools and content.